Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Australian state of Queensland say that 3 suspects are facing charges this week after they tried to avoid arrest for their alleged involvement in the theft of an SUV and ended up nearly crushing a police officer with the stolen vehicle. According to reports, the incident began at around 10:30 a.m. on October 19th, when officers from the Queensland Police were called to the Gem Hotel in the community of Alberton, just south of Brisbane, with a report about a stolen vehicle. A silver Holden Captiva that had allegedly been stolen 2 days prior had been spotted in the parking lot. When officers arrived at the scene, they attempted to block the vehicle from being able to exit the lot before approaching a 26-year-old man and a 27-year-old woman who were allegedly inside. However, before they could place the couple under arrest, they accelerated the SUV forward, over a curb, and between the police vehicle and a nearby tree. This happened at the same time that a 32-year-old detective senior constable was trying to open one of the SUV's doors, and in the chaos, he was momentarily and violently pinned up against the tree as the SUV squeezed through. After hitting the officer, the couple made no attempt to stop, and instead continued to flee the scene. As they did so, they reportedly sped down busy local roads and highways, at times weaving in and out of oncoming traffic. Police say that though the duo later ditched the stolen SUV, they managed to catch up to the pair later that day in the town of Kingston. The 26-year-old man was first to be arrested, and though the 27-year-old woman apparently managed to flee again on foot, authorities now say that she is in custody as well. A third man, also believed to be involved in the crime, identified only as a 33-year-old from the town of Woodbridge, was arrested inside the Gem Hotel at the time of the initial chase. At the time of this recording, it appears that none of the names of the suspects have been released, though it's said that each is now facing charges. The 27-year-old woman and the 33-year-old man are both facing 1 count of unlawful use of a motor vehicle, while the 26-year-old man, who was allegedly driving at the time of the chase, has been charged with 2 counts of unlawful use of a motor vehicle, as well as dangerous operation of a motor vehicle, driving unlicensed, and acts intended to prevent lawful arrest. As for the 32-year-old officer who was struck during the incident, it's said that while he suffered some serious bruising and abrasions, none of his injuries are life-threatening, and he has since been released from the hospital. Representatives from the Hong Kong police force say that a 37-year-old driver has been arrested on suspicion of drunk driving this week after his sketchy behavior caught the attention of officers responding to the scene of an accident. According to reports, the incident began just before 2:30 a.m. on October 17th, when police were called to the scene of a collision in Tsim Sha Tsui, a well-known entertainment and nightlife district within Hong Kong. It turned out that a 24-year-old motorcyclist had accidentally slammed into a taxi driver while attempting to make a right-hand turn from Austin Road to Park Street. Thankfully, the accident wasn't all that serious, though the 24-year-old was still sent to the hospital to get treatment for some abrasions to his arms and legs. While police were in the middle of investigating the situation, however, something caught their attention. It was a 37-year-old man who had been approaching the crash site slowly in his black Tesla, but upon seeing police, had abruptly pulled over, abandoned his car, and started to hurry away from the area on foot. Understandably, this came off as pretty suspicious, so officers decided to question the man, only to allegedly discover that he reeked of alcohol. Needless to say, he failed the subsequent breathalyzer test and was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving. According to police, if convicted, the 37-year-old could be looking at up to 3 years in jail, a fine of roughly $3,200 US, and a ban from driving for anywhere from 6 months to 5 years. Representatives from Indonesia's Jakarta Metropolitan Police say that they have arrested and charged a 36-year-old local man this week after he allegedly murdered his friend and then calmly removed her body from his home as if nothing had happened. According to reports, the disturbing incident began sometime on October 17th, when the 36-year-old victim, identified only by the initials AY, went to the suspect's apartment in the Pramuka area of East Jakarta. There, the two of them had allegedly planned to discuss starting a podcast together. Things allegedly began normally, until at some point, AY received a call from another man. This reportedly sent the suspect, identified only by the initial R, into a rage. R apparently said that he didn't like AY talking to this other guy, because he had had undisclosed issues with him in the past. While this caused an argument in and of itself, things reportedly boiled over when AY insulted R, apparently accusing him of being a loan shark, just like his in-laws. It was at this point that R allegedly started beating AY before strangling her to death. Later that evening, an investigation began when AY's body was found inside of a black plastic garbage bag near the Bekakayu toll road, somewhere in the neighboring city of Bekasi. While it's unclear exactly how police were first able to connect R to the murder, at a press conference on October 19th, authorities revealed truly chilling images related to the case. These images were reportedly taken from surveillance footage in an elevator in R's apartment, in which he could be seen next to a shopping cart. Inside the cart, police allege, was the black plastic garbage bag containing AY's body, which R had covered with a blue bag and a pillow to avoid drawing suspicion. Perhaps most disturbing of all is R's seemingly casual attitude while in the elevator. In the footage, he can allegedly be seen laughing and joking around with other tenants during the ride. According to reports, R has now been arrested and charged with premeditated murder. If convicted, he could be facing the death penalty. Representatives from England's Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate say that a 46-year-old man has been arrested for the murder of his missing girlfriend this week after her body was found in a shallow grave in the South American country of Peru. According to reports, 36-year-old Carla Zelaya Godoy hadn't been heard from since the end of September, when she was reported missing by family members. At the time, Carla was supposed to be on a dream vacation to Peru with her 46-year-old boyfriend, Jorge Manaya Garay. The couple lived together in London, but had reportedly planned the romantic getaway so that Garay, who was originally from Peru, could give Carla a tour of his homeland. For the first few days, things apparently seemed to be going well. The couple visited popular tourist hotspots like Machu Picchu and posted pictures of their trip to a WhatsApp group to keep friends and family up to date with their travels. On September 22nd, Carla spoke to her mother over the phone while she was riding in a taxi. She said that she was heading to Garay's grandmother's house north of the capital of Lima, and that she planned to fly to Spain the next day. However, she never arrived, and her family was never able to reach her again. While it's unclear exactly what happened next, authorities now believe that sometime between this last phone call and October 1st, Carla was murdered by her boyfriend. On October 1st, Garay traveled to Chile before buying a ticket back to he and Carla's home in London. Once there, he reportedly removed his possessions from the residence and left. After arriving back in the UK, Garay reportedly confessed to what he had done in an emotional phone call to Carla's brother Eric. During the call, Garay allegedly told Eric that he had buried Carla's body at his grandmother's property in the district of Carabayllo. Eric apparently recorded the conversation and sent it to authorities in Peru and in the UK. Sadly, on October 10th, Carla's remains were reportedly uncovered by Peruvian authorities, wrapped in blue plastic sheeting in a shallow grave where Garay had said to look. Garay was arrested by authorities in Kent following the discovery. Despite confessing to the crime, the latest available reports say that Garay is now apparently claiming that he killed Carla in self-defense. He allegedly told police that they got into an argument and that she came at him with a knife. During a struggle, he claimed that he hit her and that she fell to the ground unconscious. However, Multiple reports state that these details do not match what police found while examining Carla's body. Currently, authorities in Peru believe that Carla was strangled. They say that they are also investigating the possibility that someone else was involved in the crime, and that this person may have moved the remains to where they were eventually found. At the time of this recording, Garay remains in police custody and has been charged with murder. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Thai capital of Bangkok say that they received quite the bizarre excuse from an alleged serial thief this week after he was caught with dozens of stolen items, only to place the blame on, quote, his friends in prison. According to reports, the incident began at around 10 p.m. on October 17th, when police conducted a raid at an apartment in the city's Bang Na district. The operation was in connection with an investigation into a series of high-end robberies that had been carried out in the past few weeks. When police entered the unit in question, they came face-to-face with their suspect, 48-year-old Bua Lawang Wangkiri. The alleged thief was in possession of more than 60 stolen items, including gold bars, expensive watches, necklaces, diamonds, and other valuables. Altogether, the goods were estimated to be worth more than 10 million baht, or around $262,000 US. That wasn't all, though. Inside the apartment, police also reportedly uncovered plans for at least 10 future robberies, complete with escape routes that Wangkiri was allegedly preparing to carry out. Despite being caught more or less red-handed, however, Wangkiri was apparently far from contrite. He admitted to just a single robbery on October 9th, claiming that he had no responsibility for anything else. In fact, he said that his friends in prison were the ones that had planned all of the robberies, and that they had drafted plans for them while he was previously in jail for theft. Understandably, this bizarre explanation did not negate the fact that Wangkiri had been the one who actually carried out the crimes, and he was promptly arrested and charged. On the bright side, though, it appears that the 48-year-old may be reunited with his friends very soon. As if convicted, authorities say he will be spending another 1 to 5 years behind bars. Authorities in the Chilean capital of Santiago say that a 17-year-old high school student has been arrested this week after he injured more than a dozen of his classmates with a homemade bomb that he allegedly learned how to make on social media. According to reports, the incident took place sometime this week when the teenage suspect, who has not been identified by name, apparently thought it would be a good idea to bring a, quote, noise bomb to class. He had learned how to make the device from a video on TikTok, which was allegedly just a bottle of muriatic acid, which he threw aluminum foil into before sealing it up. While we're certainly no chemistry experts, from what we were able to gather, when these two ingredients are mixed, they start a violent chemical reaction, two of the byproducts of which are a bunch of heat and highly flammable hydrogen gas. Add in the fact that all of the contents were under pressure in this case because of the sealed bottle, and I think we can all figure out where this is going. Unfortunately for the 17-year-old, when his little prank inevitably and literally blew up in his face, it was apparently quite a bit stronger than he had anticipated. Reports we came across didn't delve very far into the details, but sources state that the resulting explosion was so loud that it caused damage to several people's eardrums, and that others received undisclosed injuries to their skin. At least 14 students were reportedly injured by the, quote, noise bomb, prompting police and other emergency workers to be called to the scene. The 17-year-old was then promptly placed under arrest. At the time of this recording, however, it's unclear what, if any, charges he is currently facing. Authorities in the Turkish city of Istanbul say that a 56-year-old man is in police custody this week after he allegedly carried out a horrific and fatal hammer attack on his mother's care worker. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of October 16th at the family home of 56-year-old Kamil Hakan Carabayllo, located somewhere in the city's Maltepe district. At some point, Carabayllo allegedly got into an argument with 39-year-old Nursel Burkan, a care worker who looked after Carabayllo's 84-year-old mother, who suffers from dementia. It's unclear what the argument was about or how it started, but what we do know is that it quickly escalated. At around 11:30 a.m., neighbors reportedly heard shouting, followed by a woman screaming. Then, things went eerily quiet. When police arrived at the scene 15 minutes later, they were greeted by a gruesome scene. Nursel had been beaten with a hammer and was unresponsive. Sadly, though paramedics tried to help the 39-year-old, there was nothing that they could do, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The attack was reportedly so brutal that she was left unrecognizable, and a formal identification after her death had to be done using DNA. Witnesses to the terrifying attack, which heartbreakingly included Nursel's 8-year-old son, told police that Carabayllo had committed the murder after flying into a rage. He allegedly hit the 39-year-old at least 10 times before snapping out of it and realizing what he had done. Carabayllo was arrested at the scene and has since reportedly confessed to carrying out the crime. At the time of this recording, the 56-year-old remains in police custody, though it's unclear if he has yet been charged. The tragic incident is still under investigation. People across France are reportedly stunned and extremely saddened this week, following the horrific murder of a 12-year-old Parisian girl. According to reports, the case began at around 4 p.m. on October 14th, when the parents of Lola Daviet alerted police that their daughter was missing. The parents stated that it was extremely out of character for their daughter not to be home on time, as her school was just around the corner, and she knew that on Fridays she needed to come home right away, as the family made their weekly 3-hour drive to visit relatives in the French countryside. When the parents asked to review CCTV footage from their apartment building, they saw that Lola had returned home that afternoon at around 3:15. However, to their horror, she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a young woman that they didn't know. Though an investigation was quickly launched into Lola's disappearance, everyone's worst fears were confirmed just a few hours later, when her body was discovered just outside of the apartment building. Disturbingly, the 12-year-old had been crammed into some kind of a container, which conflicting reports describe as either a transparent plastic packing box or a large suitcase. The numbers 0 and 1 were allegedly found on Lola's feet, though there also appears to be numerous contradictory reports about this detail as well. Some reports state that the numbers were written on post-it notes, others state that they had been written directly on her feet in red ink, while still others state that they were, quote, imprinted on her body with a device. The other details of the case are unfortunately even more distressing. It's alleged that Lola was bound with tape, her body was covered in bruises and cuts, and that she died of asphyxiation. It said that she was also sexually assaulted by her attacker prior to her death. Because of the surveillance footage taken from the apartment building, police were thankfully able to track down the alleged killer the following day. However, she has so far only been identified as a 24-year-old Algerian national named Dabia B. Dabia was arrested and is now facing numerous charges, including murder. While the full details surrounding what happened are still very much being investigated and remain in large part unclear, multiple reports state that the 24-year-old suspect was witnessed carrying around a heavy suitcase in the period following the murder, but before the discovery of the body. At one point, she was reportedly driven around the city with the suitcase, allegedly carrying the remains before returning to the crime scene and dumping them where they were found. Multiple people later told police that they had observed the 24-year-old acting strangely during this time, with at least one witness claiming that they heard her asking for help carrying her bags in return for money from, quote, an organ trafficking affair. However, investigators have since stated that they do not believe that this was a serious lead, and that instead, They theorize that the suspect is extremely psychologically unstable. At the time of this recording, she remains in custody, and the situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a minute to thank our amazing supporters over on Patreon. As many of you are aware, our situation on YouTube always seems to be a bit uncertain, but our patrons help to ensure that we can continue to make content like this long term without having to worry as much about what surprises might be thrown our way. Plus, patrons also get access to 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. If you'd like to help support the channel directly, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to join. You can also find that link in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.